Hi there. You're watching Reddit Confessions. Buckle up, because what I'm about to share didn't just shake my marriage, it shattered my sense of reality in a single, silent moment. The music was loud, too loud for a corporate event, if you ask me, and the overhead lights kept flickering like they couldn't decide if this was a party or a warning. I stood in line for a drink I didn't want, near a bar I couldn't name, trying to remember if I smiled enough when we walked in together. I always worry about that, if my silence is misinterpreted. If she wishes I were someone else in those moments. Someone taller. More sociable. Someone who doesn't memorize the exits at every party out of anxiety. She wasn't near me anymore. She had slipped away maybe 10 minutes ago, or was it 15? Time plays tricks when your brain is juggling self-doubt and the aftertaste of sparkling water. And then it happened. No build-up. No signal. No whispered warnings from the universe. Just, there she was. My wife, laughing. Not the polite laugh she gives when she's pretending to enjoy a conversation. No. This was the one with her whole face. Her hand brushed his forearm. He leaned in closer. She didn't move away. Her hair, her shoulders, her entire body leaned toward him like gravity had shifted and his orbit was stronger than mine had ever been. I froze. The glass in my hand felt heavier than it should have. People moved around me, and I couldn't hear their voices anymore, only muffled noise and the rush of my own pulse in my ears. I didn't make a scene. Didn't interrupt. Didn't walk up and say, "Hey, I exist." I left. Without my coat. Without saying a word. I passed the valet, ignored the line of guests arriving, walked 2 blocks just to feel like I still had control of my legs. And by the time I reached the car and sat down, I felt nothing. Not rage. Not heartbreak. Just silence. The kind that creeps in after something irreversible happens. At home, the house felt too clean. Too staged. Like a museum of our life together. Her coffee mug still sat beside the sink. Her scarf was tossed over the banister. Her shoes, the ones with the gold trim she only wears on important nights, were neatly parked near the door like they hadn't just walked away from me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch, in the same clothes, not turning on the lights, just staring at the hallway. At the bedroom door. At the nothing that followed her absence. At 6:47 a.m., the door opened. I didn't turn to look. But I heard it. A small gasp. Then, sobbing. Heavy, broken sobbing. And in that moment, I knew something had gone terribly wrong. Not just at the party. But long before it. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Her crying filled the space between us like smoke. And just like smoke, it stung without ever needing to touch me. She stood by the door for a while. I could hear the keys drop from her shaking hands onto the entryway table, then the soft rustle of her coat slipping from her shoulders. She always hated silence, used to say it made the walls feel like they were closing in. But that morning, I made no effort to break it for her. Eventually, she crept into the living room like someone tiptoeing through a stranger's house. I was still lying on the couch, motionless, staring at the ceiling like it owed me an explanation. She didn't ask why I was there or why I hadn't come to bed. Instead, she did something I didn't expect. She sat on the floor, just beneath my line of sight, curled up like a child who lost something irreplaceable. "I didn't do anything," she whispered after several long minutes, her voice small and cracking. I still didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I didn't trust myself to say anything that wouldn't come out like a scream. Not the loud kind, but the brittle, desperate kind you bury in your throat for years and hope it never escapes. Her phone buzzed. Once. Twice. She ignored it. I didn't. It was lying just a few inches from her bag, screen facing up, his name glowing on the lock screen. Jeremy. I had never heard of him. Never met a Jeremy from her office. Never seen the name in her texts when she used to hand me her phone to look at funny memes or check directions. Never once did I suspect that Jeremy had entered our orbit. But there he was. And there she was, still on the floor, now pulling at the sleeve of her dress like it was constricting her breath. I finally sat up. Who is he? She flinched at the question. Not because it was loud, I barely breathed it out, but because it shattered whatever fragile version of the truth she was building in her head. He's nobody, she said too quickly. Funny how people only say, he's nobody, when someone is very clearly somebody. I nodded slowly, standing now. My knees cracked from a night on the couch. I was still in the same wrinkled shirt from the party. I probably smelled like guilt and disappointment. She didn't look at me. I saw the way you looked at him, Alyssa, I said, my voice hoarse. That wasn't a colleague laugh. That wasn't a, you're being silly, smile. That was the smile I used to earn. The one you stopped giving me a long time ago. She finally looked up. Her mascara had bled into the corners of her eyes, and I hated how beautiful she still looked in that moment of complete unraveling. I didn't plan it, she said. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. That line hit me like a slap made of ice. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. The words bounced in my skull, and I wondered how many relationships those exact syllables had destroyed across history. I walked past her into the kitchen. Poured myself a glass of water just to stop my hands from trembling. I leaned against the counter, staring out the window into the gray morning. Everything outside looked normal. Trees. Birds. Neighbors jogging. But inside, I was witnessing the quiet collapse of a life I had spent over a decade building. I heard her behind me. Please talk to me, she begged. Please don't just shut down like this. That was the moment I realized how little she actually knew me. I've been shutting down in front of her for years. Piece by piece. Day by day. Every time she left the table early. Every time she smiled at her phone longer than she smiled at me. Every time she changed her password and told me not to worry about it. The difference is, this time, I wasn't going to power back on just because she cried. I turned slowly, set the glass down, and looked her in the eyes. I'm not yelling. I'm not packing bags. I'm not storming out, I said. But you need to tell me the truth, Alyssa. Because if I find out from someone else, or worse, if I find out by accident, I won't just leave the house. I'll disappear from your life entirely. You'll never see me cry. You'll never see me scream. You'll never even hear a door slam. It'll just be, nothing. She opened her mouth to speak. But before she could, her phone buzzed again. And this time, she reached for it. That was all I needed to see. She reached for the phone, but I got there first. She froze the second I wrapped my fingers around it. We both stared at each other, and something in the room shifted, like the air got denser, as if the truth itself had weight and we were standing right beneath it. I need to see, I said flatly. If you have nothing to hide, give me your passcode. A pause. God, that pause. It lasted maybe 3 seconds. But I swear, I lived a full lifetime in that space, one where she chose me. One where she smiled, gave me the passcode, and laughed nervously as she explained that Jeremy was just a friend. One where we worked through whatever this was like two mature adults who still loved each other. But that's not what happened. Instead, she said, Lowell, please don't do this. That was her answer. Not, sure. Not, here, take it. Just a quiet, pleading request to stay blind. I tightened my grip on the phone and walked into the hallway. She didn't follow me. I think she knew it was over, not the marriage, not officially, but the version of herself she'd been performing for me. That mask had slipped. And now she had no idea who I was about to meet on the other side of the lock screen. I tried every combination I could think of. Her birthday. Our anniversary. The last 4 digits of her work number. Nothing worked. And then I tried something else. Jeremy's name. I typed in the 4 digits I'd seen on his name card when he passed us once at her office months ago. I remembered them by chance, something about how the numbers were in sequence. It unlocked. My heart pounded as I stared at the home screen. Background photo. A landscape, unfamiliar. Not us. Not our daughter. Just a photo of mountains she'd never mentioned visiting. I opened the messages. There he was. Pinned at the top. I wish I could say I only skimmed. That I glanced at a few texts and tossed the phone on the couch, pretending it didn't crush me. But no. I read them all. Every word. Every emoji. Every careless, flirty text that made it clear she hadn't just laughed with him that night, she had been texting him for weeks. Maybe longer. Don't let him come tonight, LOL. You looked amazing in that dress last week. I can't stop thinking about it. If things were different. That one gutted me. If things were different. That's the phrase cheaters use to keep one foot in fantasy while the other still sleeps beside you. And then I saw it. A photo. Taken in an Uber, it looked like, her lipstick perfect, that same black dress from the party, and his hand was clearly visible on her thigh. She had sent it. Smiling. No caption. She didn't need one. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't yell. I just stood there with it, staring at the screen, until my arms went numb and my ears started ringing. She finally walked into the hallway, barefoot, shivering slightly like she knew what I had seen. I was going to end it, she said softly. Tonight. After the party. That was the plan. I didn't answer her. She stepped closer. He doesn't mean anything, Lowell. I swear to you. It was stupid. It was this phase, I don't even know what I was thinking. That's what they all say, right? That they don't know what they were thinking. Like betrayal is some involuntary twitch of the heart. I sat down on the stairs, slowly, the phone still in my lap. My hands were ice cold. My throat burned. I don't care if he meant something or not, I finally whispered. You did. You meant everything. And you threw me away for someone who didn't even have the decency to keep his hands to himself at your company's party. She looked down. For the first time, I think she realized this wasn't just an argument. It was a reckoning. I want you to go, I said after a long pause. I don't care where. Just, not here. Not right now. I can't look at you and pretend I'm okay. She nodded slowly. No resistance. No apology. Just defeat. She went to the bedroom. Packed a bag in 10 minutes. I didn't follow. I couldn't. I sat on the stairs like a forgotten suitcase at an airport, full of things no one wanted anymore. When the front door finally closed behind her, I thought I'd feel relief. But instead, I just felt small. Not angry. Not betrayed. Just, small. Like I'd shrunk inside my own life. And somewhere deep inside that quiet house, I started crying. Not because she was gone. But because I knew I was never coming back from this. The silence after she left didn't feel like peace. It felt like a question I couldn't answer. The house was still, but my mind kept pacing every room, opening doors to moments I never thought I'd second guess. I couldn't sleep. I didn't even try. I spent most of the night walking around the house like a ghost trapped in his own unfinished life, pausing at photos, staring at the impression of her body in the sheets we used to share, rereading the last few texts on her phone until the screen blurred through my tears. Around 3:40 a.m., I stood in our bathroom, hands gripping the sink, eyes locked on my own reflection. I looked like someone who had just aged 5 years in one night. I was trying to steady my breathing when something on the edge of the counter caught my attention, a folded receipt from a boutique downtown. It wasn't mine. Out of pure autopilot, I opened it. 2 items. 1, silk dress, black, size 4. 2, a bottle of men's cologne. Brand, Saran. She had never once bought me cologne in our entire marriage. So unless she was suddenly developing a side hobby of gifting strangers, I knew exactly who it was for. A sudden nausea hit me, and I had to sit on the edge of the tub to keep from shaking. She bought him a gift. Something thoughtful. Something intimate. You don't just buy a man cologne if he's nobody. That's when I started wondering, what else was I missing? I opened her side of the closet. I know it sounds petty. Like I was searching for more pain to add to the collection. But it wasn't about revenge. I wasn't looking for evidence anymore, I already had enough to bury our marriage in. I was looking for understanding. Closure. Something she wouldn't tell me with her mouth but had maybe already said with her choices. Inside the closet was a shoebox that didn't belong. It was tucked all the way at the back, behind her winter coats, the kind of spot people only use when they don't want to be found out. I pulled it down, heart racing. Inside were 2 things, a small velvet jewelry pouch, and a postcard. The pouch had a bracelet inside. Men's. Silver. Engraved. J&A, we don't need permission to feel alive. J&A, Jeremy and Alyssa. The name hit me like a slow-motion car crash. But the postcard, it wasn't from here. It was from Tulum. We were supposed to go there together on our 10th anniversary. We even picked the resort. But 3 months before the trip, she cancelled it. Said she had an urgent conference that couldn't be rescheduled. I believed her. I even bought her a new suitcase for the trip she claimed was in Detroit. But here was a postcard. A beach photo. A handwritten message on the back. Still dreaming about the nights in that hammock. I've never felt that free. Can't wait for next time. J. I dropped the postcard. My knees hit the floor a second later. It wasn't just the betrayal anymore. It was the history being rewritten in real time. The cancelled trip. The missed dinners. The weekends she said she needed space, or time to think, or time for herself. It was all rearranging in my mind like puzzle pieces that were upside down until now. I wasn't just cheated on. I was lied to while smiling. While trusting. While being the understanding husband who thought he was being supportive. And I started to hate myself for it. For being so available. So forgiving. So blind. I sat on the floor with my back against the closet wall for almost an hour, holding the postcard like it might turn to ash if I gripped it too hard. Eventually, I stood, went downstairs, and stared out the living room window as the sky began to shift from black to that aching pale blue that only comes after a night with no rest. Then, a knock on the door. Not a soft one. 3 quick raps. Sharp. Purposeful. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it, slowly. And there stood a man I didn't recognize. Older. Tall. Thin. Tired eyes. He looked at me and said, "You don't know me. But you need to hear what I have to say about your wife." I didn't respond right away. I stood there gripping the edge of the door, blinking like my brain needed a reboot. The man on the porch didn't flinch. He looked dead serious, not angry, not threatening, but exhausted in that way only someone carrying too much truth can be. "You're Lowell, right?" he asked, voice low, measured. I nodded. "Yeah." He glanced over his shoulder, then stepped back slightly. "Can we talk inside? This isn't something I want to say out here." Every nerve in my body screamed to say no. But something in his eyes, there was no smugness, no judgment, just a quiet urgency that pulled me in like a riptide. I opened the door wider. He stepped in. I didn't offer coffee. Didn't ask if he wanted to sit. I just stood there, arms crossed, waiting for whatever blow was about to land next. My name's Howard. I used to work with Jeremy, he began. We were on the same team for 3 years at Beldridge and Marks. That was Alyssa's company. He paused and studied my face, like he was checking whether I was ready for what came next. I was fired 2 months ago. Whistleblower thing, he said. Tried to report some shady contracts Jeremy was involved in. Nobody wanted to listen. Especially not the people who benefit from looking the other way. I didn't understand what any of this had to do with Alyssa. Until he said it. Your wife was listed on one of those contracts, Howard continued. Her name's not front and center, but she signed off on budget approvals that had Jeremy's fingerprints all over them. Fake consulting fees. Overbilled vendor invoices. Looks clean from the outside, but inside? It's a web. I stood frozen, not even blinking. She wasn't just cheating on you, man, Howard said, voice quieter now. She was covering for him. I felt the air in my chest collapse. That's not possible, I muttered. She's smart. She wouldn't, she doesn't mess with things like that. He pulled out a folder from his worn-out messenger bag. I brought copies, he said. Names blacked out where needed. But you'll see hers. Clear as day. Signed twice. Same file where Jeremy rerouted $28,000 to a shell company. I took the folder with shaking hands. Flipped it open. Saw the paperwork. Numbers. Lines. Blocks of dry corporate language I didn't fully understand. But there it was, in digital print, Alyssa M. Raines. Twice. Initialed, stamped, and time-marked. Why are you telling me this? I asked, voice barely a whisper. Because I tried to take it to her once, Howard said. Not the full story, just a warning. I told her Jeremy was playing with fire. You know what she did? I shook my head slowly. She laughed. Said she knew what she was doing. Told me not to worry about things that didn't concern me. I think she thought sleeping with him made her untouchable. I sat down without realizing it, the folder sliding onto my lap like a weight I couldn't hold. This goes deeper than infidelity, Lowell, he said. If things go south legally, and they will, your name might come up. Joint accounts. Shared tax filings. Property connected to the wrong transactions. She's not just cheating on you. She might be tying you to a sinking ship. I stared at him. At the man who had just delivered the final nail in the coffin of everything I thought I still had. Howard stood, handed me a business card, and nodded once. I've said what I needed to say. You do what you want with it. But get out before the house burns, man. Some people are more than unfaithful. They're reckless. He left. The door closed behind him like a judge's gavel. And suddenly, the house didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like a crime scene. One where I wasn't the victim or the suspect, just the idiot who stood there while it happened. I sat there for a long time, staring at the documents, wondering if any part of the past decade had ever been real. The love. The promises. The anniversaries. Or was I just background noise in someone else's plan? By the time the sun was fully up, I had made a decision. I couldn't confront her yet. I couldn't scream. I wasn't even ready to look her in the eyes. But I could start protecting myself. And that started with one thing. I picked up the phone. Not to call her. To call a lawyer. I didn't sleep that night either. At some point I stopped trying. I just sat at the kitchen table, the legal pad from my first call with the attorney full of scrawled notes and things I didn't understand, like asset freezes, preliminary disclosures, liability exposure. Words that felt like they belonged in someone else's mess. But they were mine now. Because she made them mine. The attorney didn't ask if I still loved her. He asked for dates. For bank accounts. For names. I think that's what hurt most, how quickly love could be replaced with logistics. Around 5 a.m., I found myself staring at her laptop. She'd left it on the bookshelf like she always did when she came home flustered. I don't know if she assumed I wouldn't touch it, or if she just didn't care anymore. But it was there. Just sitting. Just waiting. I opened it. No password. It was almost insulting, how easy it was. I didn't go digging through emails or chat apps. Not yet. What caught my attention was the backup drive connected to the side, a small USB she used when traveling, mostly for presentations and reports. Or so she said. I clicked it open and saw folders, dozens of them. Most were named with boring work labels, Q2 numbers, Mexico proposal, client docs final. But one caught my eye. Reverie. No date. No context. Just that one word. Reverie. I opened it. Inside were videos. 17 of them. My heart started pounding as I clicked the first one. It was grainy, recorded on a phone, clearly late at night. Alyssa sat at an outdoor restaurant table, drink in hand, candlelight flickering over her smile. Across from her was Jeremy. The camera was angled so it captured both of them, probably taken by him. Their voices were soft but clear. You should have come with me to Madrid, he said, leaning in. She giggled. I told you, I couldn't. Lowell was already suspicious after Tulum. Then she added, besides, I don't want to blow everything up, not yet. Not yet. I paused the video. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit down. There was no panic in her voice. No guilt. Just calculation. I clicked the second video. It was inside a hotel room. Music playing low. Jeremy's voice behind the camera, saying, this is for when you're back with him and missing the real thing. Then Alyssa appeared, walking out of the bathroom in a robe, laughing. You're such an idiot, she said playfully. He still thinks I'm in Chicago. The third video, a clip of her talking on the phone with me, saying she missed me, asking about our daughter, while Jeremy kissed her neck from behind, both of them barely holding in their laughter. I didn't make it to the fourth. I slammed the laptop shut, nearly knocking over my glass of water. The sound echoed through the house like a gunshot. I was nauseous. Dizzy. I didn't even know I had stood up until I realized I was pacing the kitchen floor in circles. This wasn't just cheating. It wasn't even just emotional betrayal. It was mockery. Performance. A private theater of my humiliation, and they recorded it. They kept it. For what? Some sick trophy shelf? I felt something primal rise up in me, something that clawed through the shame and self-pity and finally reached something close to fury. I opened her closet. Pulled down the shoebox again. Dumped everything out on the bed, the bracelet, the postcards, the receipts, the spare phone charger she kept for work trips. I searched every drawer, every file folder, every hidden space I could think of. I was done playing the fool. Done waiting for the next wave of damage. If there was more, I would find it before it found me. In the bottom drawer of her nightstand, beneath an old scarf and a nearly empty perfume bottle, I found it, a prepaid debit card. No name on it. Just numbers. I checked the card's balance online. $14,326. 14, where did that money come from? Whose account did it pull from? And why hide it? I didn't have the answers. But I knew where I might get them. I emailed Howard. Subject line, one more thing. Told him what I'd found. Asked if he could help trace it. I didn't expect a reply right away. But he answered within the hour. That card was used to pay for a wire transfer. Cayman Islands Bank. You're not just being cheated on, Lowell. You're being erased. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was an exit plan. And I wasn't supposed to survive it. That morning, for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel paralyzed. I felt clear. Cold, but clear. The way you feel after a blizzard passes and the world looks frozen solid, beautiful, deadly, and quiet. I had spent so much time mourning what was gone that I forgot I was still standing. Barely, yes. But still standing. I didn't tell Alyssa I knew about the offshore transfer. I didn't tell her I found the videos or the hidden card. I didn't even mention the call with the attorney. That would have given her time to twist the narrative, and she was too good at that. Her entire relationship with me had turned into one long performance. And I was done being her audience. So instead, I acted like nothing had changed. When she came home that afternoon, said she needed to talk, I nodded. I even made coffee. She said she was sorry, that she had ended things with Jeremy, that she was confused, ashamed, broken. She kept using soft, wounded words like they could smother the fire she started. And I just listened. Nodded. Let her believe I was still the idiot who sat on the couch and cried while she lived a double life. But I was already 5 steps ahead. Earlier that day, I had visited the bank. Quietly pulled statements, separated our joint account into 2 new ones, both in my name. I closed the credit card she used for travel. Froze the backup card she stashed in her purse. Filed paperwork for a financial protection order through the attorney. Every move she made from now on would leave a trace. And every trace would belong to me. I even visited a friend from college, a guy named Benson who worked in cybersecurity. I brought him the USB drive and the contents of Alyssa's hidden folder. He didn't ask many questions. Just looked through the files, then raised an eyebrow. "Do you want this documented legally?" he asked. "Because this is the kind of thing that blows a courtroom wide open." "Yes," I said. "But not yet." Because I wasn't going to confront her. Not publicly. Not even privately. I was going to vanish. I was going to make her wonder. Make her sweat. Make her walk through the ashes of her own careful plan. So I waited. For 2 days, I said nothing. I smiled. I cooked dinner. I told her I needed time to think. She took that as progress. But on the 3rd night, I packed my things, just the essentials, and left while she was in the shower. No note. No goodbye. No forwarded address. I turned off my phone, disconnected every app tied to our shared life, and deactivated the GPS on the car. I knew she'd try to track it. I left it parked 4 blocks from our house, keys on the dash. I walked the rest of the way. Where? To a storage unit I had rented under a fake name. Inside was a mattress, a chair, and my laptop, nothing more. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't safe. But it was mine. I set up a secure Wi-Fi hotspot, uploaded copies of every file Benson had helped recover, and created a private digital archive, one that I could send to anyone, anywhere, if something ever happened to me. And then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. The text started by sunrise. "Lowell. Where are you? Your car's here, are you okay? Please come home. I think someone's watching me. Why would you do this? Answer me, please, I'm scared." By noon, her voice was on every voicemail, shaking, frantic, switching between rage and desperation like a pendulum with a broken center. I ignored every single one. Because it was my turn now. That afternoon, I mailed 2 packages. One went to my attorney, with a full digital copy of everything. The other went to Alyssa's employer, marked confidential, addressed directly to the ethics board. Inside was the backup drive. With a note. If I disappear, this is why. And that's when it happened, the final unraveling. That evening, I got an anonymous message from an encrypted number. You don't know what you're messing with. People are going to get hurt. Walk away before it gets worse. I sat perfectly still. Not because I was afraid. But because for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about survival. I never responded to the threats. Not once. I let the silence do the work. A week passed. Then 2. I stayed off the grid, checking in with my attorney through secure lines and watching from a distance as the dominoes fell. I didn't need to lift a finger. My absence was loud enough. The firm launched an internal investigation the same day the drive arrived. Alyssa was suspended. Jeremy vanished. Rumor was he booked a flight to Belize and never showed up for his connecting transfer. Howard called me once more, just to say thank you. You did the right thing, he said. Most people just walk away. But I didn't walk away. I disappeared on purpose. And that was the difference. Eventually, Alyssa found me. Or at least, she found the address I had given the court for final divorce processing. She showed up in person, thinner than I remembered, with dark circles under her eyes and a small paper envelope in her hand. I lost everything, she whispered. I didn't let her in. I stood at the threshold and waited. She opened the envelope and handed me the last thing I ever expected. It was a letter. Not an apology. A confession. Every detail. Every lie. The fake invoices. The money trail. The real reason she started seeing Jeremy, not for love, but for leverage. He had something on her. Something she never admitted to me. Something from years before we even met. I read it once. Then I closed it. I don't hate you, I told her quietly. But I don't trust you. And I never will. She nodded. Tears in her eyes. But no resistance. No more lies. I gave the letter to my lawyer. Within a month, the divorce was finalized. I got the house. I got my name back. But more importantly, I got myself back. Not the version of me that begged for attention or waited for validation. The real version. The one who saw the truth, took the hit, and chose to stand anyway. I moved cities. I started consulting part-time. I enrolled in a local writing class because, weirdly enough, I wanted to learn how to tell stories, the ones that mattered, not the ones people fake to look perfect from the outside. Sometimes, I still get messages from unknown numbers. People trying to shake loose the past. But I don't answer anymore. Because I'm no longer trying to fix what was never mine to hold in the first place. I tell this story not because I want pity. But because maybe someone watching is sitting on that same couch I once sat on, trying to convince themselves they're not seeing what's right in front of them. If that's you, believe your gut. And walk away before the ground gives out. You're not weak for hurting. You're strong for healing. Thanks for watching this wild ride of a story on Reddit Confessions. If something in this story hit home, or reminded you of something that happened to you, drop it in the comments below. What moment shocked you the most? Or, what would you have done differently? We read every single one. And if you're still here, take that as a sign. You're stronger than you think.